Hey, so if you've watched my other videos, you'll know that I've recently finished a sketchbook. Specifically, this one, which happened on the last day of my Arttober series. Anyway, this is a Canson mixed media spiral bound sketchbook, size 5.5 by 8.5. I've had it for... I think I bought it in 2018? I'm not actually sure because I didn't date anything in here until a few pages in that says January 2019. And I know for sure that I had it in 2018 because I remember the apartment I was in when I started using it. And I only lived in that place for a couple months in 2018, so yeah, I'm saying 2018. And I finally finished it in 2020. 2 years to complete a sketchbook, though, is honestly record timing for me. It takes so long to complete sketchbooks, especially when it's like special paper like this, or tan paper, black paper. It feels too precious to use. Like, what if I mess up? Well, I messed up quite a bit with this sketchbook, but that's okay. Sketchbooks aren't meant to be perfect. They're meant to be quite ugly. At least I think so. They keep all your trials and errors and like failed experiments that don't make it to the final finished piece. So let it be ugly. I'm saying this more for myself than anything, but feel free to take the advice too. That's why I'm sharing it. I want to preface before opening the sketchbook that a lot of the pages in here are swatch pages. Mostly of markers, but also my watercolors and acrylic paint. Okay, so starting off terribly, the first page is a swatch page for my Blick Studio markers. I wanted the brush ones, but got sent the bullet nib ones instead and never bothered to return them. So I started by seeing how well I could make them blend and experimented with the timing, but ultimately I found that the blending isn't easy. I also noticed that there wasn't a light skin tone marker in the set. There were darker skin tone colors though, and I was happy about that. On this page, I swatched them all out and compared them to how well they match their caps. And about a third of them don't match the cap, which is why it's important to swatch your supplies. The markers bleed through pretty badly when you try to blend them too much, but I sort of expected that because mixed media paper isn't always as thick as something like watercolor paper, which is what I would generally use. The next page is more marker swatching, this time with the few Copics that I have, some water-based Faber-Castells, and some Artist Loft colors that I bought recently. This page also has a few notes about blending and the inks that I used. Oh god, this is why I say sketchbooks can be ugly. This is I'd barely call it a swatch page. I was given acrylic paint markers for my birthday or Christmas or something, and they were, they're the kind that you shake and pump to get the paint to flow, right? Well, I got the paint to flow a lot. And the page didn't really bend or wave at all, so you know, that's the impressive part. So this is out of order because I'd use the backs of pages to swatch for other pieces, but these are all my green markers that I was using to figure out the exact shade of green that I needed and how to get it, but that'll make sense in a bit. This page, however, was me attempting to use watercolor for the first time since I was like 9. The only thing I like is this little bush at the bottom, and I don't even know how I got it. I was using a box set of like really cheap chalky pan watercolors, so that probably didn't help. Another swatch page for all my Artist Loft markers, except for the most recent ones that were on, you know, the other page. These ones were given to me by another friend for my birthday. 2 of them had like copies, but I'm okay with that, especially with the earthy set down here since it's one of my favorite types of color palettes. Okay, so this is why I have that swatch page that had all the green markers all over it. Do you see what I mean now? I had to mix so much in order to get the color of his suit correct. His hair was also difficult, but the suit actually took like 5 different markers in order to get what I think is as correct as I can get. More of that cheap chalky watercolor, though the kit also had a few tubes of watercolor that did marginally better. But I don't think I used any water at all because all of these came out rather strong. The next page is my acrylic paint when I got myself a set of folk art paints. I also spent a lot of time blending skin tone colors because skin tone can be super finicky to figure out. I didn't label any of them though, so good going, Heather. Not a lot of useful information. But yeah, the paper didn't buckle or bleed. This, I think, is my favorite page in the entire sketchbook. It's a full finished piece, which is rare for me, that I made from the contents of Jazza's first art box. I used the Spectrum Noir markers swatched on the next page, the Polychromos pencils, the fine liners, all from the box. The water is the only exception where I used an Artist Loft marker, which is why it's kind of streaky. It was getting pretty dry. Otherwise, I absolutely love this. Every part of it was so much fun for me to make, and it didn't bleed that badly. These next 2 pages are more swatches, this time of my watercolors, the real watercolors that I like. They are by Van Gogh, and they're pan set, and it's about, I think, 24 colors. They have a nice, smooth consistency and a lot of color to them. I don't know how to describe watercolors, but I like them a lot. These are the watercolor pencils that I have. I don't know how good they are because I've never heard of the brand before, and I'm not sure if I'm using them correctly. And there's a lot of really pretty greens and blues, so I'll take it. This is my second favorite piece, easily. Might have become my favorite if I had finished it, but I was too scared to paint it. I'm not confident enough that I don't think I'd ruin it. I'm probably going to transfer it to different paper and paint it there, but until then, it will remain pristine in this sketchbook. I used the Col-Erase colored pencil from Prismacolor. They're basically just erasable colored pencils, which, if you're trying to use them as colored pencils, aren't exactly the best. But as sketching pencils, they're great, especially underneath watercolor or markers. It doesn't mess up the colors like regular graphite would, and it adds some nice visual interest in a sketchbook. Don't ask why she's in a jar though, because I don't know. I needed to just contain the water somehow. From here on out, the rest of the pages are filled with Arttober prompts, with the exception of this one page, which is once again a swatch page, this time for my Arteza watercolor brush pens. Mostly flat washes without water, just the pens themselves, though I did add water in various ways with this light green brush. And that's the end of the sketchbook. It's a pretty boring sketchbook tour since it's mostly swatches and fewer sketches, but it was still something that I was able to complete, and I wanted to celebrate that. I haven't finished many sketchbooks before, so I hadn't really thought about what I'm supposed to do with them after other than keep them. I don't know if I even have the space, but I'm going to keep them all and buy more anyway because I have a terrible, terrible addiction. So if you want to support my addiction, my Redbubble store is linked down below. Or you can press the like button and subscribe. Please support my addiction in art supplies. I need them. Or you can just like and subscribe because you enjoyed this. Either is fine with me. I hope you're having a good day, and I'll see you all again in Friday's video. Bye bye!